This is the Louie T Network.
Who else could it be? Me, your man, Louie T. Welcome to Lockdown Coverage Week number 14. The National Football League. Go, Pack, go! Go, Pack, go! Versus the Cleveland Browns. Without a doubt, for your man Louie T, this was the most disappointing outcome of the day. Not because I had any rooting interest in this game, but just because I picked the Browns to win their first game of the season, and I was adamant about it. I was so sure that this was the week they were going to win. They got Brett Hundley coming into their building. This is a good Browns defense. Believe it or not. Don't let the record fool you. Browns play defense. And Brett Hundley stinks. And so in my mind, you get Brett Hundley at the crib. Browns have been one of the better run-stop teams this season. They've had a couple of games where you scratch your head and say, hey, what happened today? But for the most part, they've stopped the run, which is what the Packers have done well with Hundley at quarterback in the absence of Aaron Rodgers. So they're going to take away what the Packers do best, which is run the football, and they're going to force Brett Hundley to beat them, something I don't think he's capable of doing. So I love this matchup. I love this opportunity for them to get off the schneid. I said the Packers aren't good defensively. I watched Tampa Bay gut them last week on the ground. I expected Crowell or Duke Johnson or a combination of both to eclipse 100 yards rushing. Well, Isaiah Crowell went over 100 yards for the first time this season. Everything came to fruition except one thing, the biggest thing, the damn win. The all-elusive win in Cleveland. And as elusive as that win has been this season, this one stung probably the most because they had every opportunity to win this football game. And you can't ask for it much better than they got it in this game, and they still found a way to blow it. In typical Cleveland Browns fashion. It's tough. It's tough to be a Browns fan because in the back of your mind, just like these players, when a team gets close, you're saying to yourself, here we go again. They're coming for our ass. We're going to lose. And don't think for 1 second the players aren't feeling the same way. They feel just like you fans out there feel. Uh-oh, here they come. They're getting on the horse. When the Packers started the fourth quarter with that touchdown to cut it to 21-14, you said, uh-oh, here they come. They're coming for our ass. And that's exactly what they did. Now, it took them the entire fourth quarter to do it. And we're gonna talk about this. Let's jump into the Packers side of things first. And let's start on the offense because Brett Hundley actually wasn't garbage in this game. I thought, and I've said this already, he's played his best football on the road for this Packers football team. His worst football has come on the road. I mean, at home, believe it or not, which is hard to do in this league. But he's been much more comfortable on the road. His best performances at Chicago, this game, and at Pittsburgh, all on the road. His worst performances against New Orleans, at home, against Baltimore, at home. Last week wasn't great. It was horrible, as a matter of fact, versus Tampa. He's been putrid at home. He's been much better on the road. He was much better. I thought both quarterbacks actually played well in this game. Despite Deshaun Kaiser having a couple of mistakes, I thought both quarterbacks played really well in this game and gave their team chances to win. And so I thought Hundley did his part on the road against a tough Browns defense, down 21-7. They fake a punt on the first possession, get the first down, and he's able to buy time late in that possession to find a wide-ass open Jamal Williams for a touchdown catch, like 30 yards. Just a blown coverage by this Browns defense. They're playing cover 3, and no one gets deep. Everyone gets sucked in underneath. Why? I don't know. But there was no one deeper than the deepest. And he was by him alone. So there wasn't a Brown defender within 10 yards during that touchdown. So they score to start the game off. And they don't score again until the fourth quarter. Meanwhile, the Browns scored 21 unanswered points. So they were in a little bit of a bind. But they found their way out of it. Some big plays by the Packers on offense, but none bigger than the special teams return by Trevor Davis. Without that, they lose this football game, and that's just the Browns being the Browns. We'll get to that when we get to them. But big play down the stretch. You get down there, and you think Hundley scores on a quarterback run. It's determined via replay that he doesn't score. He's down at about the, let's call it a half-yard line. Packers have no timeouts remaining, and they're going to run 10 seconds off the clock. So the clock goes from 32 seconds to 22 seconds, and on the referee's start, they're going to run that clock for play. So they had to get up. They can't afford to run it. Even though they're at the half-yard line, a quarterback sneak, you lose the football game if you don't get in. So they can't run it. At this point, you've got to throw it. And Hundley throws a beautiful back shoulder fade in the end zone to Davante Adams to get this game within one. Then you get Mason Crosby to come on and tie it up at 21, and we're going to overtime. And at that point, you had to know the Browns were going to lose this game. You couldn't let this game get to extra frame, because if you did, you're going to lose. And they got it to overtime. Browns win the toss, and DeShone Kizer. And then let's talk about this Packers defense, because I didn't think the Packers defensively were great in this game, but they weren't horrible. And when they had to make stops, they got stops. Late in the game, David Njoku looks like he catches a 5-yard slant on 3rd and 4 to keep the sticks moving, and that would have been a crucial conversion for the Browns. They convert that, they probably win this game, because the Packers only had one timeout at the time. And you were under 3 minutes at that juncture of the game, right around 2 minutes and 34 seconds. They would have had to burn their last time out. And then you're looking at one run down to the 2-minute warning, and then 2 more runs, and the Packers are probably going to see the football back, having to go the length of the field to tie the game with about a good 27 seconds or so. So that was a huge overturn there, as Mike McCarthy risked his last time out to challenge the Njoku catch on 3rd down, which was not a catch. Great challenge by McCarthy. It's overturned. After there was a great catch the play before by Seth DeValve to get them in a 3rd and 4 situation that was manageable. Njoku wasn't able to hold on. And you got stops when you needed to. You got to stop there, and you got to stop in overtime after the Browns won the toss. So this defense wasn't great all day, but they made plays. They picked off Kizer twice. They were able to slow down Josh Gordon after his hot start to the game. And you gave it up on the ground, though. You were gutted on the ground, and Kizer was able to move the football against your defense. But when you needed to make plays, you made plays in this game that helped your team win. And special teams, Trevor Davis with that return, that may be the play of the game when it's all said and done. Without that return, Brett Hundley having to drive the distance of the field, I don't see that happening. I just don't see it happening. So, because they needed a touchdown. This wasn't a situation like against Tampa where you just needed a field goal. You needed a touchdown. I don't see Brett Hundley driving the distance of the field and getting you a touchdown to tie this game up. So that return by Trevor Davis, arguably the biggest play of the game, as the Packers come back and win this thing in overtime, 27-21. They get the interception in overtime, and then Davante Adams on a wide receiver screen, able to break a tackle and get in the end zone. Let's get to the Browns, because this was a really disappointing finish to the game. Let's start on the offensive side of the football. I thought Kizer, and I've said this the last 3 weeks, since the Detroit game, I felt like there was a light bulb coming on for DeShone Kizer. He's playing his most confident football of the season. And it's not a coincidence. The more you play in this league, the more you're exposed to NFL defenses, the more comfortable you become. And it doesn't hurt when you get your best target back in Josh Gordon to this offense. And then you get Corey Coleman back healthy. And to me, Corey Coleman, not a number 1, but he could make a damn good number 2 in this league if Gordon is able to stay healthy and stay active and available that's going to make this offense, because I already told you, you're talented in the backfield at the running back position. You're talented at tight end. You just needed receivers. Well, if Josh Gordon is going to be your number one, you'll be just fine if he's going to play like this. Now, I'll say this. Josh Gordon, these first 2 games back, has been phenomenal in the first half, been silent in the second half. He had a chance to make a big play down the field, dropped a deep ball, perfectly thrown football by Kaiser. He's got chances to make plays in the second half. Now, Kaiser, granted, had a chance to hit him deep and didn't have enough arm strength to get it. He was behind 2 Packer defenders by about 3 steps. Underthrew the football, did Kaiser, allowed those Packer defenders to get back in play. That should have been a touchdown, but nonetheless, Gordon hasn't been a factor in the second half of these games like he has the first half of these 2 games. They need him to be a factor all 4 quarters, not just the first 2 quarters of the game. Gets his first touchdown grab of the season, and it's been over 3 seasons or close to 3 seasons. He hasn't had a touchdown grab since 2014. He put on the sunglasses. It has to be a relief for him to get in the end zone. First play of the game offensively for the Browns is a big corner route to Josh Gordon down the sideline. So he had an immediate impact on this game, and then he catches the touchdown on that same drive. So he was outstanding early. Again, he needs to be active late, and not just early in the football game, not just in the first half, but in the second half as well. You ran it well. Isaiah Crowell over 100 yards. Duke Johnson was a big factor. Again, you've got weapons on this football team. Kaiser's starting to get more comfortable. The run game, if they're able to run it the way you were able to run it in this game, it's going to open up things for play action fake and some shot opportunities. Maybe Corey Coleman can start to use that speed to get vertical. Still haven't seen that from him yet. He had a nice 2-yard touchdown grab to extend the lead to 21-7. But again, you weren't able to make the plays down the stretch. All you had to do is extend one of those fourth quarter possessions, just one. Preferably that last one where Njoku wasn't able to come down with that slant on 3rd down. You get a first down there, you're going to win this game. It's about 4-minute offense late in the ball game. You weren't able to execute, and it cost you, but it shouldn't have cost you the game. This is a good defense that you should have been able to lean on to get a win, but the special teams broke your back. That was a good punt. Colquitt was outstanding in this game, pinning the Packers deep in their own territory all game long. He did not outkick his coverage. I do not believe that for 1 second. That was a good kick by him. He flipped the field position. There were 18 Brown defenders in position to make a tackle. They let Trevor Davis run one way, stop, plant, run the other way, stop, plant, turn around, pivot, and run back outside and run away from everybody and pick up about 60 yards on that return. Shame on the Browns defense, or excuse me, special teams. They create ways to lose games. Now it's special teams costing them a big time play in a huge spot of the game. God damn it, Browns. And even with that being said, you still had a chance defensively to get a stop to win this game and preserve the victory, and you were able to do so. And then you get in overtime. No excuses. Even if you got a punt, don't turn it over, creating a short field in overtime. Make them drive the length of the field. And then after the turnover, at least make Mason Crosby kick a field goal. At least make them have to kick a field goal. Could be a bad snap. It could get blocked. He could just miss. Anything could happen. Don't let them score a touchdown. Damn it, Browns. You don't want to win. You don't want to win. You know what? You're 0-13. Packers get the win. They go to 7-6, 27-21 in overtime. Much needed victory. It's going to allow Aaron Rodgers, the bad man, is going to get to return next week versus Carolina on the road to see if he can help salvage this season and run the table and get to 10-6. Going to take a lot for that to happen, including a win on the road against not only Carolina next week, but against Minnesota, possibly to end the week after that. You're going to go on the road, or you're going to be at home versus Minnesota, excuse me. And then you're going to have to go on the road to Detroit if you're going to win the division, or not win the division, but win 10 games and get a chance to make the playoffs. I don't see it happening, but at least you're telling me there's a chance. I'm telling you there's a chance because you were able to battle back and somehow, some way, when it seemed all but impossible, to win this game on the road in overtime versus the Browns, 27-21. The Packers get to 7-6 on the season. Browns drop to 0-13. And I'm gonna tell you what, this may have been your last opportunity to get one. I don't see you beating the Ravens next week. I don't know who you have after that. And the Steelers, we thought once upon a time they may not need that Week 17 game. Why won't they need it? Yeah, they clinched the division already. They're trying to get that number 1 seed. They're going to need that game, whether they beat the Patriots or not. They're going to need that last game of the season. Unless you see the Patriots dropping their next 2 games or 2 out of their next 3, including tonight. And the Steelers winning every single game from here on out until they get to you Week 17. They're going to need that game in Week 17. So for a home field advantage, you're screwed. You're probably not going to win a game now. This was it. You had a shot. You blew it. Really disappointed. Disco Jump Rope says, man, I thought you were crazy picking the Browns, but at halftime, I had to question myself on picking the Packers. I told you that they were going to win this game. I had an inkling because I watched the Packers, and I'm telling you, I said, this Browns defense is good enough to shut down this Packers offense because all they do well now with Hundley at quarterback is run the football. He actually threw it well in this game, though. And they had a chance to win, though. They had a chance to win. John Perez says, any chance you get the piss cup after this awful loss for the Browns? Nope, I'm not getting a piss cup. I actually didn't do that bad as I thought I would with some of the picks I made. John Perez says, what do you think of Myles Garrett and Jabril Peppers so far? Garrett looks good. He's got to stop jumping off sides. Peppers looks like a disappointment. But I told you, those positionless players, you got to watch out for them because them not having one legit position puts them at a very steep disadvantage coming to the next level. If you're on offense and you don't have a position, we can find ways, create ways for you to get the ball. When you don't have a position on defense, I worry because we have to carve out a niche for you on defense, and they haven't done that for Jabril Peppers thus far, and he hasn't been an asset to them on special teams either. So he's been a little bit of a disappointment, but it's early. He's a rookie. We'll see what happens next year. Cloud says, this wide receiver core looks good. I think they will release Gordon, though, because they're the Browns. They're not going to release him, not if he continues to play this way. But it's rounding into shape. They're missing something at receiver. I'm glad they cut Kenny Britt because he stinks. And they figured that out once Gordon came back and was a true number 1 for them. If Rashard Higgins can turn into something, they may have a nice little nucleus at receiver if they can keep Gordon on the field. So we'll see what happens. Daniel the GOAT says, road to 0-16, but in all seriousness, this was an entertaining game and surprised the Browns just blew it while they had all the opportunities in the world. I can't believe they didn't win this game. I was so convinced they would win. Really let me down. Brandon Williams says, I'm convinced that the Browns don't want to win because they were given every opportunity to put this game away. I can't disagree with that. They had every opportunity to find a way to win this game. And what the good teams do in this league is they find a way to win. See the Pittsburgh Steelers. And what the bad teams in this league do, they find ways to lose games. See the Indianapolis Colts and the Cleveland Browns as the Browns dropped to 0-13 with just a gut-wrenching, I mean, rip your heart out of your chest and step on it type of loss to the Green Bay Packers in overtime, 27-21 to drop the Browns to 0-13. And I'm finding it hard to believe they're going to win. I'm always the optimist. Oh, they're going to beat somebody. They're not going 0-for. This was the one. This was the one that I pegged. Now, they may be able to get somebody else. They may have one more opportunity somewhere in here. And I don't know if they played the Bears yet. And the Bears may be week 16 because I know I'm missing a game. They've got the Steelers. They've got the Ravens. Wedged in between there, I think, is the Bears. Don't quote me on that, but I don't remember them playing the Bears this season. They will have a shot there. That's it. They don't get that one. They're done. Packers remain alive, and yes, it makes sense for Aaron Rodgers to come back now, being that this team has a chance, a realistic one, at making the postseason if they can get to 10 wins. They own the tiebreaker over just about every team, Falcons, Cowboys, so they're in a good position. They just got to win. They got it done in this game. We'll see if they can continue to do that with Aaron Rodgers coming back on the road next week versus the Carolina Panthers. That's going to do it for your man Louie T here on Lockdown Coverage. If it happens in the National Football League, whether big or small, we cover it all here on the Louie T Network. Come back and join me as I continue to break down anything and everything in the National Football League. More games to break down, more lockdown coverage for your ass. So don't you go anywhere. Your man Louie T is covering this entire league like a blanket. And I'll be right back in a jiffy. So don't you go anywhere. More lockdown coverage to come. I'll see you in a second.